first.
Hey.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Before I introduce today's guest, I just want to mention that the latest issue of the Forks Over Knives magazine has hit the stands. It's a wonderful magazine. I've subscribed since the beginning. They have delicious, healthy recipes, and each recipe has a photo. But this month's issue, they did a story about somebody I know named Chef AJ. And they took my product suggestions of my favorite products and they talked about them. And one of the products is going to be on the show. Well, the product's not going to be on, but the person that makes it. And that is none other than Spicy Nick Davoren from Local Spicery, who's going to be making an SOS-Free Dashi and a vegan Japanese hot pot with mushrooms and soba noodles. And he's become a regular monthly feature on the show, just like Tuesdays with Thomas, but nothing rhymes with Friday for Nick. So here he is, Nick Davoren.
AJ, how are you?
Good. Nice to see you again. I love your recipes. They sound amazing. I mean, well, the ones that I've tasted taste amazing, but the ones that you are going to make. And I know you have a blog with the recipes on it, and this recipe will be up a little bit later today or tomorrow, right?
Absolutely.
Terrific.
Yeah, they can find it just on our website. You can either, when you go to the initial landing page and just scroll down, you'll see kind of it's a big field with basil, and that's opens into our blog spot, or it's just localspicery.com/blog.
Great. Well, I'll keep posting it in the show notes. I know it's already in the chat.
Perfect.
Nice. All right. So what spices are you going to be using today?
Well, the one thing I really want to talk about today is kombu, which is one of my favorites. I think I've mentioned it several times before. Kombu is a dried kelp. You know, we sell it like this. Generally, it comes in strips of approximately 6 inches. It is a totally natural product. It's not, it can't get organically certified, but it is wild harvested, and it's as natural as they come. But kombu is kind of magical in a lot of ways. To begin with, the flavor of kombu is the definition of umami. When umami was first identified as a flavor, it was the flavor that we get off of the kombu kelp, and that's because it has a very, very high quantity of glutamic acid. And many of us remember when MSG, monosodium glutamate, was a common ingredient, and it was something you could put on anything and it would taste wonderful. Well, the glutamic acid comes from the kombu, and when you simmer it in water, it extracts that wonderful glutamic, sweet, velvety, rich umami flavor, and it's a very, very useful thing in a lot of ways for cooking. We're gonna use another couple of products. One is the product that's mentioned in Forks Over Knives, and that's our Bada Bing bouillon. Bada Bing bouillon is one of 2 products that I make that I just consider a huge umami bomb. I wasn't going to use the Bada Bing until I read more about Japanese flavors and what they use in different soups and stews. And actually, the profile in the Bada Bing bouillon is really very, very close to what a Japanese broth, and I think you'll like it a lot. I'm also using some dried shiitake mushrooms in addition to the wonderful fresh mushrooms that I have. I'm using a blend that I call Depth, and Depth is my umami bomb. The Depth is, you could tell we had fun coming up with a name for it. It's rich umami flavors driven by the flavor of porcini mushroom, tomato, onion, kombu kelp, of course, and also another great umami flavor is the Indonesian long pepper in the Depth. We're going to use that because we've taken a traditional recipe and we've turned it into an SOS-Free recipe, and this is one of the ways we got there. And then for finishing, we're going to use our shichimi togarashi, which I haven't mentioned before. on these, and I probably should because it is a completely salt-free blend, and it's got some wonderful Asian flavors to it, and it's great for finishing a noodle dish. The core ingredients going into this hot pot. I have 4 different types of wild mushrooms, including the shiitake, the maitake, the oyster mushroom, and I got these, and I can't remember what they are, but they're lovely.
I had a doctor on the earlier show, a medical doctor, and she was talking about the magic of medicinal mushrooms. So today is Mushroom Day.
Oh, I wished I'd heard it. I love mushrooms. Which reminds me, I want to send a call out on this recipe because my daughter Rachel is insane about Japanese cooking. She introduced me to hot pots, and she actually helped give me her core recipes, which I took and converted to SOS-Free. So these are Rachel's recipes. Thank you, Rachel. And with not much further ado, I'm going to get started because what I want to do is begin by introducing you to, the first core part, which I've already prepared, and that is the dashi, which I'm going to bring over here.
Dashi? I think I said dashi, so it's dashi.
Dashi, yeah.
Dashi.
Dashi is kind of the core broth behind almost all Japanese soups. It's what they use in to make a miso soup. It begins with a dashi, and it's really very simple. What I did to make this pot of dashi, and I'll bring the camera up in just a second, but I can just pull these out. It's got 2 dry ingredients in water. One of them is the kombu, which you can see here, which we're going to take out, and then the other are let's just skewer this. They're dried shiitake mushrooms, and I just put 3 strips of kombu kelp and about 8 dried shiitake mushrooms. That's about half of one of our bulk bags of shiitake mushrooms. I put them in 4 cups of water. I just let them sit initially for several hours. You can do it overnight. 2-3 hours is probably plenty. And then I put it on the stove, just brought it to a boil and then backed it down to a simmer and let it sit at a very low simmer for about 30 minutes plus. You really can't overcook it. You're trying to extract the glutamics from the kombu and the rich umami flavors out of the mushrooms. So that's I'm going to pull the kombu out.
Nick, the first time I heard of kombu was from a Japanese chef, and she said if you cook your beans with it, you won't get as gassy.
That's true. So I said kombu is magic. In beans, I find the kombu you don't get as gassy. For people who like to have the skin of the beans be really, really smooth and not coarse at all, it softens and cures the skin of the beans. The only other way to do that is by brining or adding salt. So it's a salt-free way to do it, and it adds a tremendous that beautiful glutamic flavor. So yeah, I use it for all legumes. I use it in my chickpeas. I use it with my beans. I use it with lentils. It's almost like magic what it does for you. So I'm going to move the phone up just so you can look into the pot a little bit. It's just almost like a tea. And so I'm going to turn the heat up. It's about 350 or so. I'm going to start by adding, this is just some Napa cabbage. I do about half a pound. That's a 1 pound head of cabbage. So what I'm going to do is cut it lengthwise just to give me a half. That way I'm getting equal parts of the leafy part as well as down at the base. And I like to have a little bit of I like it to almost be like it's shredded. So I'm not going to chop it very much. I'm just going to slice it into, these are maybe quarter-inch slice.
Do you cook this nicely every day?
So I had it several times. Usually it's my daughter that cooks it. I'm mostly familiar with it through her, but you know what? You could cook this really easily any day. One of the things that I would recommend at this point, the dashi itself, that initial broth, which is just the kombu and the mushrooms, it's got this slightly sweet, silky umami flavor, and I think it'd be a great thing to keep in the refrigerator. In fact, I'm planning on working with that and on some salad dressings. Salad dressings, I'm always trying to come up with something to replace the oil in a vinaigrette. And this way you're going to get the umami that'll contrast with the sweet and acidic flavors that come off the vinegars. I think it'd be great for vinaigrettes. I think it is. I mean, it is clearly a wonderful flavor for any kind of a soup as a background broth. You can make it and keep it in your refrigerator for up to a week, or you can freeze it and have it whenever you want. This is just some extra firm tofu. I'm going to take half the package out. I'm going to cut it into some pretty big chunks here.
Sherry's asking if you could please repeat the kind of mushrooms you were using. She was wondering if they were lion's mane mushrooms.
So I didn't get any lion's manes. I looked at them. I haven't, I'm familiar with the lion's manes mostly for the health benefits. I don't know enough about their flavor to go that way. I have, this is maitake. Those are oyster mushrooms. I have some fresh shiitake, as well as the dried shiitake that I'm just going to leave in the broth. And this one, I seem to remember calling it a king mushroom, but I don't know the correct name for it. I've had it several times. They're quite delicious, and none of these are terribly exotic or hard to find. Okay, so I am just going to turn this up to 450. All I want to do is to get this set to start boiling, and then we'll move on. While I'm doing this, what I want to do is I'm going to pour this hot pot over some soba noodles. So I want to get those going right now. I've got some water over here that needs to just finish heating. We'll get that boiling. Soba is a wonderful noodle. I don't know how many people have cooked with it. They are very, very traditionally Japanese. They're made with a buckwheat flour. They usually come in bundles like this. I'm going to use 2 bundles. I'm cooking it in about 3 quarts of water, and they cook in just 5 minutes. One of the things about soba, it's one of those noodles that you want to rinse, and you want it cold. You want to cook it to the level of softness that suits you, and then you want to take it off right away and rinse it in cold water and cool it down. You can heat it up again later by pouring hot broth on it, or a lot of times it's served cold. In fact, this dish I'm making, we call it a hot pot, but you could do this cold. You could do this with the broth cold and with the noodles cold, and it would make a beautiful, refreshing broth soup. Okay.
There's a question from Apple. Can you please tell her what spice you would use in a pumpkin enchilada sauce?
Pumpkin enchilada. So I am very partial to achiote, which is what I used on the Iron Chef with Thomas. We make an achiote blend, but it has a little bit of salt in it. If you want to go salt-free, in that Iron Chef video, I actually made a quick achiote without any salt in it at all, which you can do. I used a chili powder with some milled achiote, some tomato. I can't remember what else. I think there was a 4th ingredient. I can't remember what I did. But achiote is great because It is, it's tangy and earthy, and it complements the sweet flavor of squash just extraordinarily well. And I like it because it's not Americanized in any way. It is a very, very traditional kind of a blend. Okay, we're cooking here. It's just starting to boil. So I'm going to add just a little bit of seasoning to it. As I said, I'm going to be adding a little bit of bada bing. What I'm trying to do is, normally on a broth like this, you would put soy sauce in, but I want to go completely salt-free. So we're going to try to get some rich umami flavors without soy sauce. So I'm going to put a tablespoon of the bada bing umami bouillon powder, and then I'm going to put another tablespoon of the depth. Both of these are just, from different directions, just very, very rich umami bombs. They're going to fill the background flavors in this broth rather nicely, and keep it in a very traditional Japanese kind of flavor. Okay, we're going to turn this down now that we've got it boiling. We're just going to go for another 5 or 10 minutes on this. Okay, and then we're going to add the acids, and the acids are some mirin. This is just a half a cup of mirin. Mirin is a sweet wine used for cooking. It's a rice wine from Japan. Be careful in purchasing mirin, because most of the mirin that's sold in the United States has added salt. And the reason why they do that is if they put enough salt in, they can get an exemption from the Alcoholic Beverage Council and not have commission and not have to ask for your ID when you buy it. But you can, if you go to the Japanese stores or Asian stores, you can get a mirin that is traditional, from Japan, and doesn't have the added salt. And then this is just a cup of sake. And I know a lot of you are going alcohol free, so we're going to let this simmer for a while so we can cook all of the alcohol out of it, or most of it anyways. And I'm boiling over here. I'm putting my buckwheat noodles in for the water. These will go, they're very, very thin noodles. They go very, very fast. So now that I've got the broth complete, I'm gonna add the mushrooms. We'll start with the shiitake, and fresh shiitake, I'm just gonna de-stem them. Actually, if I thought about this, it would have been great to add the stems of the fresh shiitake into the dashi broth. We would have gotten even more richness out of it. I'm going to use about half. This is 1 pound of shiitake mushroom. I'm going to use about half of it because I already have 8 shiitakes in there that have been that started out dehydrated. I think that's pretty good. And I'm just going to cut these into strips. This pot is going to get pretty full. Let me go check my soba. Soba's not quite done. Okay. This is the maitake mushroom. And again, I'm just going to kind of cut it into some chunks so it can be, think the size that you could eat with a chopstick. Then the oyster mushrooms. It's funny, oyster mushrooms, we only find them with the exotics, but actually they're easiest type of mushroom there is to grow. People that want to try to grow their own mushrooms is a good one to start out with.
Do you sell mushroom powder, Nick?
We do. We sell porcini and shiitake mushroom powder. And in both cases, you know, like a lot of our product, it's we do the milling ourselves, so it's very fresh. And you know that it was milled ethically here in the United States.
Do you sell mango powder?
Not mango powder, no. You know, we do have one of the things I've been meaning to share with you. We use it in some blends, and you know, we could easily put it up on the website. But a great sweetener, we have pineapple powder, which is, you know, all it is just dried pineapple, and it is very, very sweet. It's a good way to get a completely natural, whole food, plant-based sweetness. Okay, that is looking delicious. Put these out here, and I think that these are done over here. Just grab a cloth. You can see how quickly this meal comes together.
Yep, that's what we like, quick and easy.
But, and you know what, kind of a common thread for me and the recipes that I like and that I like to share are ones where you get a sense that you're going on a bit of an adventure. You're experiencing something that's a little bit different to you culturally, a little bit different from the standpoint of flavor. Just make life a little bit of an adventure. Okay.
So the Forks Over Knives magazine hits the stands today. Has anybody come in yet saying they saw you in the magazine?
Not yet. I mean, I haven't seen it. We've checked a couple of different grocery stores, and we haven't found one here that carries it.
Oh no! Generally, it's like places like Whole Foods, Sprouts, those kind of stores.
There are a couple of health food stores that we checked out here that didn't have it.
Then you're going to have to get a subscription.
You know what? I did just sign up for a subscription, and as our Facebook page points out, we bought 5 copies for my mother of this current issue.
That's great.
So I'm just going to go ahead and plate it. This dinner is ready. You know, plating is everything. So because this is kind of a special meal, and because with Japanese food, aesthetics are everything, I brought some bowls that were from my parents' collection. My parents collected ceramics. It's a beautiful handmade bowl. And I'm just going to put some soba noodle in the bottom of the bowl.
Do they make gluten-free soba noodles for people that are gluten sensitive? Because soba noodles are generally made out of wheat, correct?
The buckwheat, and I don't know if
buckwheat isn't wheat. Then that's fantastic.
Okay, yeah, it's a buckwheat noodle, and let me hang on. I'll check, because these are certified organic, and I'll bet if they're gluten-free, they'll be certified. Non-GMO, USDA organic. Doesn't say certified gluten-free, so I don't know.
Oh. Well,
right,
I'm sure people can get a gluten-free one if they look.
I wouldn't be surprised. My love, and I was trying to find my copy, but I'm pretty sure it's my daughter who took it from me. One of my all-time favorite books is the Japanese novel Musashi, about the famous samurai warrior Miyamoto Musashi. But in this very rough and tumble book, mostly involving sword duels, they have a whole chapter dedicated to the simplicity of soba noodle, and how the soba noodle represents the beginning of the harvest and a new beginning for everybody. Okay, and then I'm just going to pour a little bit of the broth over the top to make it a soup. I mean, it's a very clear broth. Let me get the burner out of the way so you can see this.
Hey, there's a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Marcy asks, should mushroom powder be refrigerated?
No. So I don't advise putting spices or dry ingredients in a refrigerator. And the reason is not because of the way the refrigerator is supposed to work, but because of the way that it might end up working. If you, so the flavor from mushroom powder and from spices comes from essential oils. And those essential oils reside in the same place in the product as residual moisture. So if it were to freeze, it would be that residual moisture that would freeze, and it would end up drying out the product, and you would lose a significant amount of flavor from it. So for that reason, our advice for all dry product, specifically spices, and relative to this question, specific to mushroom powder, you want to keep it cool but not cold. You want to protect it from sunlight, and most importantly, you want to keep it very, very well sealed so you have a strong oxygen barrier. The thing that attacks the flavor the most is oxygen. So I'm going to just sprinkle some scallions over the top, and then Shishimi Togarashi, which is a very traditional Japanese blend. It is specifically used mostly as a topper on noodle dishes. It's based on a chili, and in Japan they use a red chili. I use a particular yellow chili that comes from Peru called the ají amarillo, but it has some black sesame seed. It's got some, I use a little bit of brewer's yeast to give it a slightly bitter flavor. There's a little bit of some chives, some nori, some toasted sesame seed, and some orange peel. So I'm just going to sprinkle this on the top, and it gives it some color and some texture and some flavor. Well, let's put some chopsticks out.
A question on how long does mushroom powder last?
Yeah. So mushroom powder, I would, my strongest advice is buy in quantities that you use up within a year, and you're going to be fine. If you wanted me, how long can I keep it on the shelf? US FDA would consider a mushroom a spice and would give it a freshness date of 4 years, herbs 2 years. But I really think, after 1 year, you're starting to lose a significant amount of the aromatics. They're not going to go bad. They'll never go bad. You can use them, and it's not going to hurt you. But for the strongest flavor and the freshest flavor, my advice is use it within a year. Let's bring this close in. Can you see that?
Yeah. Could you get even closer though? Because it is gorgeous. It looks like a restaurant meal.
It is gorgeous. And how can you go wrong? Because the ingredients are so simple. It's really just quickly flash poached mushrooms, some Dashi Kombu in the background over the soba noodles. It's delicious. When you serve it, it looks like something that's very exotic and took a long time, but as you just saw, what did we do, 20 minutes?
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, 20 minutes. Can you walk over to the camera and even hold it closer?
Yeah. Let me I'll take this out of here.
You should definitely take a picture.
Let's see. I can't see what you see.
Oh, yeah, a little bit tilted a little.
Like that?
Mm-hmm. Wow, that looks like amazing food. A couple of people are asking, does alcohol really cook off?
Not 100%, but a lot of it does. Yeah. When you think about what we're doing when you put alcohol on something and you instantly smell that strong alcohol aroma, that's the alcohol volatilizing, which means that it's igniting and it's cooking off. So, sake is what, 8-9%. I mean, it's not terribly alcoholic. I'm sorry, 15%.
Do you remember the show from the 60s called Laugh-In?
Yeah.
He used to say it may be rice wine to you, but it's sake to me. Sake to me. That was their thing. Remember that? You got to be pretty old to remember that.
I don't remember that gag, but I remember a lot about Laugh-In. That was a weekly show for us.
Used to love that show. Wow. Well, this is great. So yeah, you're doing it just like Thomas, less than 30 minutes. I love it. We'll keep having you. I think we committed to the second Friday of every month, something like that.
Second Friday of the month, and I'll try to keep them all something you can prepare quickly.
Right. Yeah. And if you know in advance what next month's spice is, let us know. But we love having you on. And guys, if you haven't tried Local Spicery, I've put a link in the show notes, and they have great spices. You don't have to be SOS-free. He makes spices with salt too, but the pepperoni spice is delicious. A lot of the spices are, but that's a very unique one.
If you enter the site, go to localspicery.com/Chef AJ, and you will automatically receive 2 free samples of SOS-free spices. With
your order, make sure they say with your order. They don't automatically receive it. Yeah. That's a very important caveat. And your cinnamon is the best for my snickerdoodles. I love, and the broth. It's such a not just a time saver, but a money saver than having to use all those boxes.
I just find it's a great way to add umami flavors. And when you're trying to cook whole food plant-based, it's those umami flavors that we miss the most. And I find that when you can combine strong umami flavors with something that's acidic, like we did in this bowl, you end up with something that it doesn't taste salt-free at all. It tastes exactly like it should.
Wow. Well, great. Well, thanks so much, Nick. Can't wait to have you back next month.
We'll see you next month and probably be talking sooner. It's good to see you, AJ.
Thank you. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow when my guest is Tracy Child, and she's going to be cooking recipes with soy. Are you going to enjoy your bowl of soup now?
I'm going to make one for me, one for my wife, and we have one worker downstairs who's also going to get some.
Great. Lucky. Take care, Nick. Thanks again. Bye.